My Christmas videos have always been odd. In my first year, instead of doing a video, I streamed, I think, for the first time when I was taking a break from family. The second year, I did a video in which I gave My Little Pony a try. And this year, I'll be attacking a classic. Well, attacking is a strong word. I won't be saying that it's not good, I'll just bring something to your attention that you may have never thought about. The story I'll be condemning is A Christmas Carol. You want to hear something funny and random? I saw this stuff myself while watching the My Little Pony edition. Why? I don't know. Best guess is that they only had 20 minutes, so they obscured it less. Or maybe it was just that they were clearer because it's for kids and I'm an idiot. I'll give a quick summary. But summaries were never really my thing, and I suspect that you have seen at least 3 different versions before the age of 10. So I'll be brief and uninformative. Ebenezer Scrooge is a greedy asshole. Hey, isn't that what Dutch people are supposed to be? Who doesn't give to the poor, charity, treats his worker badly, has no remorse for those who owe him money, and doesn't give a fuck about his family or Christmas. On Christmas Eve, his now dead partner comes to see him as a ghost. Scares the bad Jesus out of him, tells Scrooge he'll suffer like him if he continues to live in the same way, and that free ghost will help him change his ways. First, the ghost of Christmas past visits him, shows him how he used to be happy, and how he turned into this miserable git because of tragic events. Second is the ghost of Christmas present, who shows him how awesome the lives of those who celebrate Christmas are, despite them having less money than him, and how those he neglects also suffer. Thirdly is the ghost of Christmas future, who shows him his death will be meaningless, and no one gives a fuck about him no longer existing. After that, Scrooge becomes a jolly old twat, who'd celebrate Christmas, give to the poor, treats people better, yada yada yada. So, to whom does that sound familiar? And I don't just mean as a butchering of a classic. Who's heard those arguments used against them? You don't accept this because of your tragic past. You'd be so much happier if you just accepted this. If you don't accept this, your life will be meaningless. Yep, A Christmas Carol perfectly mirrors a fair few of the arguments public atheists tend to suffer. Generally from vocal Christians. Now, am I saying that Charles Dickens took anti-atheist rhetoric and used it in his redemption story? No, they work very well in his story. There weren't gaping holes in the ideas. They fit the narrative very well. It's a story that works equally well for an atheist, after all. Bad events in your childhood can leave you with problems in your social life. A closed-off existence can be very lonely and sad. And a death no one mourns is rather meaningless. What I am saying is that vocal Christians probably took ideas from Charles Dickens' book and pasted them on atheist, because it fits their narrative, even if it has no relation to the actual world. So let's go over the 4 points I see, and look how well they mirror between the book and the real world accusation. Scrooge is a miserable cunt who doesn't care about other people. Atheists are morally bankrupt. Classic, isn't it? Now, in the book, this fits very well. Scrooge only cares about himself. he doesn't care about the needs and pleas of others. It shows his flaws. It makes us see why we want this character to be different. But that simply doesn't fit with the whole of atheism. Many vocal Christians, and let me be very clear, I'm not attacking all Christians. I'm attacking the cunts who bring up arguments like these. Many vocal Christians love to say that atheists don't have morals.
But as it turns out, something on their something's broken on the atheist moral compass.
Because they apparently came from God, and that they have no reason to be nice people. The idea is basically, if atheists acted like true atheists, they would be like Scrooge, not caring about other people and just getting everything they can for themselves. Which makes it funny that atheists are underrepresented in prisons. If they are creationists, they'll probably say something dumb and compare it to evolution. And the quote-unquote belief in survival of the fittest. Like usual, not understanding that fittest has no relation to how fit you are, but how well you fit your role in the ecosystem. The first mistake they obviously make in this is the assumption that atheists don't have absolute morality. It is true that a lot of atheists hold to a more subjective morality. But it's not all. Atheism only talks about the lack of belief in any and all gods. It's not a moral stance. It doesn't make any statement about the existence of objective morals. The second problem is that they tend to think atheists have no reason to care for other people. This to me makes no sense. In my mind, everyone only has one life. If I make the life of someone else better, I improve two lives. Their lives and mine. Theirs because I helped make it better, mine because I get a dopamine rush out of helping others. Because human populations who helped one another survived better than those that didn't. And killing another person is basically irredeemable as an atheist because you took away someone's only life. At least if you are a materialist atheist. You took away their only life. While if you are a Christian, they just go to the afterlife they deserve. The mirroring of A Christmas Carol and real life fits on the surface, but not when you dive deeper. In the book, it shows problem that the character has, and why we want him to change. In the real world, it's the vocal Christians claiming atheists have problems that they don't have, and that they need to change something which is completely unrelated. Scrooge doesn't partake in Christmas because he had a bad childhood. Atheists just reject God because of a bad bond with their father. It makes us understand why Scrooge is so closed off to the world and his own feelings. We start understanding the why. It makes him a sympathetic character. But sympathy isn't the thing the vocal Christians want for atheists. Atheists don't have a good relation to their heavenly father because they don't have a good relation with their earthly father. Also old as fuck. Who doesn't love to hear that they don't lack belief because they can't believe for various reasons, but because they didn't love their father enough? You had a hard childhood, that's why you can't agree with me. Which does obviously touch on the problem of evil. Why does an all-powerful, all-knowing, all-good God let bad things happen? Not to mention the worst forms of torture in his holy book that we are apparently supposed to gain our morals from. Obviously, I don't speak for all, just myself. Though the amount of people saying something similar as to what I'm going to say is staggering. But my disbelief is the result of differences between the Bible and reality. Not that my father was horrible. The only horrible part about him was that he suffered from an equal amount of winter depression as I do, is just slightly more socially clumsy as I, and has a horrible sense of humor that I've just taken over. Saying that I don't believe in God because I don't like my father is like saying that I accept evolution because I should go to the gym more often. The best relation between the two is they share a word with a different meaning, and it isn't even true. In the story, we see how Scrooge is affected by the events shown. It shows how he became the way he is. In real life, the vocal Christians tell the atheist that this is the reason why they don't believe. Because they want that to be the reason they don't believe. And they don't want it to be the actual reason they don't believe. This is why it doesn't matter if it's true. It's for their peace of mind, not to convince anyone but themselves. Scrooge misses out on the happiness of Christmas. Atheism leads to misery. Carpe diem. Pluk de dag. Seize the day. In A Christmas Carol, it always shows how much energy Scrooge gets out of a social situation. It shows he's an extrovert who doesn't behave socially. And after seeing how that came to be, we see him rediscovering how much happiness that can bring him. Fuck me, it's hard to find these claims. Mainly because they are made mainly among other quote-unquote better points. And because every study I can find concludes that countries that are less religious are also happier. And apparently the Netherlands are very not religious and very happy. The most supportive study for their case I was able to find was a study that showed that religious people in the US could be happier than atheists. Of course, there you also have things like trying to keep it hidden and living a lie, or being a social outcast, which this study itself brings up. But yeah, this basically boils down to, I feel like I'm happy because of my religion. Therefore, people who don't share my religion must be unhappy. This part works perfectly in A Christmas Carol because Scrooge was an unhappy loner, a social person who cut all his ties to other people. That simply isn't automatically the case with atheists. No, I am not saying all atheists are happy. I'm saying that there is no standard causation. Atheists can be hugely social people who sing karaoke every evening of the week. Or something, I don't know, I'm not a social twat. My need for twats around me is very low. But introverted Christians exist just as much. They might go to an online church instead of getting pants on every Sunday morning or something. In the book, Scrooge rediscovers a happiness he forgot about. But in the real world, atheists aren't less happy than Christians. So for vocal Christians to claim that is rather silly. Hell, most of the vocal minority of atheists say they are more happy now that they're out of the shackles of their religion. Scrooge's death would be meaningless. Atheists believe there is no point in living. Memento mori. Gedenk te sterven. Remember you will die. The book combines the threat of its own version of hell, and showing Scrooge how his death will be a happy event, to show Scrooge that this is not how he wants his life to conclude. And this is one where I'm the worst person to ask. I have some fun nihilistic leanings, meaning that my reason for staying alive sucks. I know it sucks and I'm okay with that. And my reason is that I enjoy living. Nothing deeper than that. The argument here is that because there is no afterlife, this life is meaningless.
In that people believe in evolution.
They believe that things just kind of happen randomly, and therefore if there isn't really a God and a designer, an intelligent designer who created everything here, there's really no absolute truth
or absolute meaning to life.
I guess. It's finite, and once we die, it'll all be over. Dark Matter 2525 did a brilliant video about the afterlife thing, pointing out that then the afterlife would be worthless if there isn't an afterlife. Yes, to us personally, our existence will mean nothing once we die. But it can have, or we give it meaning while we live. And of course, that's only if you are a materialist atheist. Atheists can just as easily be religious and believe in an afterlife or reincarnation. Atheism only says something about the belief in any and all gods after all, nothing else. Though I think that atheists who believe there is no afterlife or reincarnation are the majority. The weirdest cases are when they say that the life of a Christian means something because they'll go to the afterlife, but atheists will just disappear. To those twats I'll simply say, we are all in this together. Either I'm wrong and when we die we will go to an afterlife, or I'm not and we both just end once we die. And I can tell you right now that an afterlife sounds like a lot more fun than everything simply ending. But with everything I know about how the human brain works, and the serious lack of any proof for a soul, I simply can't believe it exists. It being nice sadly does fuck all. In the book, this is where Scrooge is terrified into him wanting to take action, so his life won't end that way. In real life, this is the part where vocal Christians want to scare atheists with hell. Talk about how neat heaven is, and tell them their lives will end in their worldview. Like they never thought about that. In the book, the threat works because Scrooge saw it. But not in the real world. Here it's just more unsupported claims. And vocal Christians telling us what we believe. Because obviously they know our position better than we do. In conclusion, vocal Christians stole from a good book, because they want that narrative to play out in the real world. The problem is that it doesn't stick. Atheists aren't isolating greedy cunts. And not all atheists are introverted who don't like seeing people. Those things are personality based, not religiously based. Atheists aren't all atheists because their dad was an asshole. They could be atheistic out of a rebellious phase, but people grow out of those. But if they in that time find out that they have no reason to believe, then the lack of belief will stick, coming from a reason instead of rebellion. Atheists aren't automatically less happy than Christians. Hell, when looking at studies, the opposite seems to be true. Life isn't automatically meaningless if there is no God. And even if it did mean that, that means fuck all. Life otherwise being meaningless doesn't make God real. And why would a God existing somehow make life have meaning anyway? These types of vocal Christians see atheists as people with an overlapping flaw. As people who need to go through a Scrooge-like character arc. Mainly because if their religion doesn't make them good, then why have it? They have to convince themselves that atheists must be unhappy, immoral, who see their lives as worthless. Which simply doesn't stick to atheism as a whole. Reality is always more complicated than the stories people tell. Which is why picking a story from a book and pasting it on real people is real stupid. The story itself is still good though. This has been Phoenix saying Happy Christmas and Merry Holidays.